To buy or not to buy? That is the question. But first, what is cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is essentially a digital currency, with Bitcoin being the biggest one of them. And if we take it a step further, crypto is often synonymous with blockchain, and blockchain is the technology that crypto basically lives off of. And one of the reasons that cryptocurrency is so popular is because there's no central person, group, company, or government that's behind it. It's totally decentralized compared to the US dollar, where there's a lot of control by the government over that money. In fact, you have to file taxes at the end of the year to show what you earned, where that money was coming from, what you paid, etc. And did you know that it's a criminal offense to deface US currency, like damaging it or burning it? Rest assured, no dollars were hurt in the process of making this video. And we saw this play out when Russia invaded Ukraine. The World Bank basically cut Russia off from the SWIFT network, which is a network that basically connects all the banks around the world. So if you want to transfer money between banks, it goes through the SWIFT network. And during this time, the only currency that could come in out of the country was crypto. And so during that time, a lot of people were talking about how, because it's decentralized, people have a lot more control over that currency. And one of the reasons why they stated that it's the future, because no one person or a group can control it. Okay, so that's the basics of crypto and Bitcoin. But before we dig into if you should be investing into it, let's look into a few other things first. The first is, let's look at investing versus speculating. One of the greatest investors, Benjamin Graham, says that when you're making an investment, you basically want to be doing research on that investment, making sure that your principal that you've invested is safe and that you can get a reasonable return. And keep in mind, even with that, there is still the chance that your investment could go to zero. On the flip side, speculating is basically looking at price. So you bought something and you're hoping that in the future, someone will buy it off of you for more money. And Benjamin Graham goes on to say that oftentimes speculators make money for the government and the brokers, but make very little money for themselves. Basically saying that you don't make a lot of money through speculating. And he goes on to say that one of the best investment strategies is dollar cost averaging. And you can find a video of me going into that in more detail here. So basically, since the pandemic started, many people got into cryptocurrency, and that's where we saw a lot of new currencies like Shiba Inu, Dogecoin being created. And during that time, the prices of these coins skyrocketed. And now you have to think, were people buying into these because the technology was so great that they were worth investing into? Or were they just trying to make a quick buck where they would buy it and sell it to someone else for more money? And that's literally the definition of speculating. Like, take a look at this chart of Dogecoin. The price went up really quickly, but then it came down really quickly too. That doesn't look like a good investment to me. And even look at what Warren Buffett has to say. He believes that eventually cryptos are all going down to zero.
In terms of cryptocurrencies generally, I can say almost with certainty that they will come to a bad ending. Bitcoin has no unique value at all.
Now, within investing, there's a concept of risk and return. Most commonly, it's said that the higher the risk, the higher the reward. And if we take it a step further, it's saying that the higher the chances of reward, there's also the higher chance of losing your money because of that higher risk. But one thing that isn't addressed is that risk is dependent on each person individually. For example, real estate is often considered a low risk investment, and so the returns aren't as high. But if you know what you're doing, you can actually use real estate to make a lot of money. And once you gain more experience and expertise within certain asset types, your risk goes down, but your returns go up. Think about Warren Buffett. He buys businesses, which could be considered high risk, but because he's such an expert at it, and he's so thorough on his analysis, it's actually low risk for him. And take a look at this chart. It basically shows your level of return compared to the level of risk. And alternative investments are one of the highest on this chart. And within alternative investments, you could get things like wine or art, but also what falls within that is cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And within alternative investments, I think it's the one that has the highest risk.
We do not tell people to invest in highly volatile, unpredictable investments. Crypto would be the most volatile among those.
And this understanding of risk versus return is really important, because you can't look at crypto or Bitcoin on its own and say, okay, should I buy Bitcoin or should I not buy Bitcoin? But you have to look at it in comparison to the other investment opportunities that are available to you. Okay, so when it comes to crypto, there's generally two types of people that buy cryptocurrencies. The first group, they believe in the technology, they believe in the blockchain, and they believe that decentralized finance is where the world is heading. These people are definitely more technical, so they look at the technology behind blockchain, and so that's definitely not me. And another thing that really isn't addressed is that if Bitcoin does become the world currency, in order for that to happen, you have to think of what would need to happen before we got to that stage. And basically one of the biggest things is that the US economy would have collapsed, the banking system would have collapsed, and so we're no longer on the US dollar and instead are using Bitcoin as the world's reserve currency. And so think about that. You're basically saying that in order for Bitcoin to really become this dominant coin, that Apple's gonna go out of business most likely, or these banks, these airlines. And do you really think that that's gonna happen? In my opinion, I don't. And that's the biggest reason for me why I'm not a believer in Bitcoin. Below I've listed some books that really talk about this in further detail, whether it's about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, decentralized finance. I think these are some books that you can really learn more from. So that's the first group of people. And then the second group of people is the ones that think this is a way to get rich quick.
Getting rich quick, and I have not found many people that get rich quick. Of course, everybody that's a Bitcoin genius right now thinks Dave Ramsey's an out-of-touch boomer, but I'm also worth several $100 million, so let's go figure that out.
And that's the majority of crypto buyers. They're generally younger and have less financial literacy. They're the ones that say, oh, you're making peanuts making 7 to 8% in the stock market, and they'd rather invest in crypto making 50 to 60% per year. But did you know if you make that kind of return over a long period of time, you'll have more money than all the money in the world? So I think that's a little unrealistic. And besides, if you look at this chart, most of the gains in Bitcoin happened in the last few years. So if you bought Bitcoin recently, you're likely losing money on that investment. So we've talked about what crypto is, the type of people that invest into it, and why I'm not investing into it. And it's hard because you don't hear about people who got rich the slow way. You only hear about people who bought that one stock, that one share, that one investment, and that it changed their life forever. And these are the people who are messaging you on social media and saying, hey, come buy this investment and you'll be as rich as me with my Ferraris and Lamborghinis. But I don't know if that's really realistic. And it doesn't really work like that. Success isn't a golden ticket that you just get it and your world changes. It's a slow process where you take steps every day and it's boring. Now, this is just my opinion today. This is why I'm not investing in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. Will that change down the road? Yeah, potentially. I think it's important that you keep an open mind, and that's one of the reasons why I've suggested the books below and why I'm reading them as well. Because as more information comes out, maybe the world does change and we do end up with decentralized finance where Bitcoin is the leading currency. You never know. So it's important to know about these different technologies so that you're aware and you can make a more informed decision. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful in thinking about Bitcoin more critically. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do so. It really helps the channel out and I really, really appreciate it. I'll see you next week.